All right, welcome to Shelters by Jesus podcast. We're excited today to have you talking with us, listening to us, and all of that. There's been so many of you subscribing, and if you want to be a part of our ministry, please hit subscribe, hit like, because we're getting averaging almost two subscribers a day, and it's helping us. It's starting to bring in money for the homeless. And so what a way to do it. All you have to do is watch the podcast, do that, and you can help us out. Also, if you want to do more, you go to sheltersbyjesus.com. $9 a month will take somebody off the street. And I got 4 books out written by me, the Dumb Hick from Skowhegan. And we have 2 prices, $10 and free, and they're all about the miracles, the battles, everything that God has done. It shares God's glory, how he got us through battles, how he supplies everything. Because we're 100% faith-based. And this place is Shelters by Jesus. We don't go anywhere unless he takes care of it. So we don't get any funding from anywhere else. So anyway, if you'd like to be a part of that, jump on for $9 a month and you can be a part of it with us. What we want to do, I've had on my heart lately, there's so much said about homelessness and the cause of it. And there's all kinds of reasons. Some is the rent's gone up, as some of you already know. Around here, even in Portland area, they said the average rent is $2,600 a month. And I don't know where you're watching this from. If you're watching it from New York, you're going, well, that ain't nothing. But if you're in Skowhegan, Maine, or you're in Portland, Maine, and you make the wages of Maine, $2,600 is like Midas gold. It is so crazy. So we have people here but others are here because of addictions. And I want to do a series on addictions. I myself have an addiction, but it's one of those everybody says is fine because mine is food addiction. But obesity can kill you too. And it got me to almost put me in a wheelchair. And God helped me, prayed about that and going to work on it. And with diet and exercise, I dropped 50 pounds and got into a gym and took care of that. But it's a battle every day. So I understand what addiction is. Your mind wants to do things it shouldn't do. And your body will crave it, and your mind says, let's do it, and you end up doing it. And what I have is one of the ladies from the shelter today who's come in, and I don't even know what her addictions were. She said she had some, and she's going to share some with us. Chelsea's been on one of our other podcasts, but not talking about addiction. So you're going to see a series of these, and she happens to be the starter on the addiction. So, Chelsea, would you want to tell us what kind of addictions you suffered from?
Well, at first it was pain pills. I broke my back while I was pregnant with my second son, and it had rehealed wrong. And they put you on it for so long, and then they just pull it right away. And I was taking care of 2 kids, one newly diagnosed with autism, and somebody had said, well, you can just get it off the street and then wean yourself.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I'll feel okay to take care of my kids. Perfect. Doesn't work that way.
It doesn't.
It
doesn't. Okay.
Does not. And before I knew it, I couldn't get away from it. And finally called my doctor and told her and got myself into treatment. I had to go to methadone treatment, but I know the stories on it. It's really hard to stop going. So I wouldn't let them start me out on the normal dose. I went lower and I listened to my body and weaned out in less than a year and did really good for a while. And then had some traumatizing news about my kids that caused a relapse. So I did it again, went and got help, weaned out. And throughout, I guess, I've always said alcohol wasn't a problem because I didn't need it. I could walk away from it. I didn't have to get drunk every time. But then again, there's also all right, I need to feel something else today other than what I'm feeling. So that's why I would go to having a drink or 2 or more.
And so the alcohol became an addiction as well?
To me, it is. If I'm looking to feel something different, I'm covering something. So I know it is. I guess it's probably the addict brain in me that says, well, it's not a problem because I'm not getting drunk every time.
So the drug part of it, you started out because of an injury. I want to relate with that a little bit because that almost happened to me. My foot was blown out in 1980. That's how I ended up in the ministry. But they had me on Percodan. And at first, I'd never even taken an aspirin for that. And I took one, and it knocked me for a loop. I mean, it was like I was flying around in one. But then because with the pain in the foot every day, it started not having the same effect. And then I started taking two. Over the next 6 to 8 months, I could take 4 or 5 Percodans and hardly even notice it. And I got scared.
Yep.
And I went and I just dumped them out and I said, I'll just take the pain. But not everybody does that. And so what would you tell somebody that's watching right now and they're going, I'm battling the same thing. What would you advise me to do if it's drugs or alcohol or whatever? What did you do to walk away from it?
That's a hard one because you're battling your brain that knows right from wrong, and you're battling the addict part of your brain. And the one thing I learned during treatment is that when you're taking these meds, you're having chemicals in your brain that aren't being made properly. So those are going down. So you're using, kind of keeping it up, and when you're not, it finally brings it lower than what your body was making. Like, it goes under and you need even more and more. So that's why you end up in that position. So I know as an addict, it depends on the day and where your head is at. If you say you want help, if you don't get it then, tomorrow you might not. You don't know what you're going to feel the next day.
So how long have you been off the drugs and the alcohol?
I have relapsed here and there. When my fiance passed away in 2021, I hadn't relapsed then. I was trying to stay strong for my kids. And then I had the situation which they had taken my kids, which I knew was wrong at the time. I knew I didn't deserve that. I knew I was a good mom.
So why were your kids taken? Because of your addiction?
No, it was a lot of different things that were fraudulized by somebody who shouldn't have been on my case.
So anyway,
she was fired.
So if it wasn't because of the addictions, but then it was the trauma of it.
Of losing them,
that triggered the addiction.
I went from a family of 12 to just a family of 5 to just me within a year and a half. And that's hard. Once I didn't have them, I felt like I had nothing. I didn't care anymore. You feel like you can't beat the state, especially when you know the caseworker was fired. Why don't I have my kids back? So you feel like, what am I going to do to fix this? So I fell harder. And I had moments where I was drinking all day, every day. And then I'd have days where I wouldn't. And I would be using. And it was back and forth. And then I'd stop because I finally had a caseworker that was updating me. And I knew where it was going and I could fight for it. And I find that I do really good. And then if I don't know how things are going, I would fall again. And now I know how it's going. I have a date. I just got to find a place and I will have my babies with me again. So that is what keeps me grounded now.
So you're clean at this time?
Yeah.
And so how do you stay clean every day? The thing, I know people watch this going, does the temptation ever leave? Does it just go so that your mind doesn't go back to, okay, I get this situation, the answer is drugs or alcohol to get me over the hump? Does that feeling ever leave?
For me, it doesn't, because it's mostly self-medicating other issues that I'm also working on taking care of. But the focus of having my babies back after losing everything, that's what does it.
Okay. So if those that are watching, like I say, there could be somebody watching right now that's going through even some of the things, because we run into a lot of it where children have been taken from homes, children take away from their parents. And a lot of it has to do with drugs or alcohol. Yours wasn't that particular case, but it ended up putting you over the hill and putting you on that. And why I asked you about Does that ever go away? I know with a food addiction, and I know people laugh about that. Oh, why do you worry about food addiction? Because you can get obese, you can have heart attacks, you can end up in a wheelchair. It can kill you, and it is serious. And that's my battle. And there's not a day goes by that I don't have to fight it. So I'm wondering, is there going to come a day when I don't have to fight it anymore? And I'm sure somebody's listening there too, wondering the same thing. So do you have days when you don't feel drawn to it? Or
Sometimes it's more of keeping myself busy, for one.
okay,
For two, making sure I'm surrounded by the right people. That's huge.
and that's what people need to know is in the wrong crowd. There, I hear this all the time. Well, I can't leave them because they're my friends. I want to tell you right now, those that are watching, anyone that encourages you to eat what you shouldn't, to drink what you shouldn't, to shoot up with what you shouldn't, that's not your friend. That's not your friend, because if they'll encourage you to harm your body, to shorten your life, that's not a friend, because a friend's going to want you to be clean. A real friend is going to do what they can to get you clean. And but that is a real addiction. Food is, alcohol, drugs, whatever you're watching. When you're watching and listening, you're going, wow, I didn't think of food as an addiction. Well, I know a lot of people, they're even in the shelter. You'll see some of them later that are battling that along with me. And I'm hoping that this might inspire you, if that's your addiction, not to say, oh, it's no big deal. Because now if you go in there and they see you come out with a bottle of beer, they go, oh. But if they see me come out with a Twinkie, they don't even blink. Or whoopie pie, they don't even blink, because it's like, oh, he's just having dessert. Well, no, he's having about his 20th dessert.
Yeah. Honestly, I think after I've also been at a point where I was over 320 pounds. So I get that one as well. But
So
I think food's
you battle food too?
I
You
don't
did?
anymore.
No, I'm saying
but I did.
It is an addiction, isn't it?
And honestly, I would say it's the hardest one. The other ones you can avoid the people. You can avoid a lot of things and cut it out of your life. You have to eat every day.
Yeah.
And
that's what stinks.
Yeah.
You go to get groceries and you want to get good stuff, but then that stinking Twinkie and whoopie pie jumps right in my cart. I'm telling you, it leaps like a frog right off the shelf, man, and there it comes. Oh, that box of donuts. It's like, yeah, and after you eat them, you feel like crap. You do. It's like, what is going on? And then you pray and see. Some get the impression, and I want to speak to that. All I got to do is just pray, and it's all done. I just pray. Well, God don't send fairy dust, and just praying ain't enough. It's praying, moving the right direction, and God will help you. I know one guy told me, he says, I was told to stand on the Word of God. You know what he did? He put a Bible on the floor and he stood on it. Guess what? Didn't work. Ain't that funny?
no way.
Ain't that funny? He stepped off the Bible, he still was an addict. But anyway, there's all kinds of ideas out there as to what the addiction is. And someone say, well, just stop doing it. If you don't get bothered with addiction, and most of us have an addiction, but the problem is they're addictions that people don't consider addictions, but they can destroy us, but they're acceptable addictions. Mm-hmm. But you just get up, didn't get up one morning and go, okay, I'm just going to stop drugs and alcohol. That's it. All right? It'd be nice if you could do that. So I just want people watching this to understand, we have people coming to our shelter that are battling these things, and they go, well, why don't they just stop? Well, it ain't that easy, is it?
No, it's not. And I think a lot of the stigma, it's just like on homeless people or addicts, or they're not necessarily bad people. And that's what's put out there. I've actually met the most real and genuine people here. And I think a lot of it is because you've been through so much that you get it.
Yep.
on a different level.
Well, what is scary is the effect that it can have down the road. A friend of mine that's in the shelter, he went out and his thing was booze. And I was just informed that he was outside last night, and I don't know if he was drunk or what it was, but I just got told that he died. And he's just in his early 60s. So, but his booze kept him away from everything and pretty much destroyed his life. And he just never got to the point where he could just set it aside. And they say, well, it's only the illiterate. Well, this guy was a former lawyer and DA and everything else. He's actually Assistant Attorney General of the state of Maine. And his addiction just overcome him, and he just couldn't beat it. But just saying you're going to beat it ain't enough. You got to get some help. And if somebody, those that are watching, if somebody's saying, where would I go for help? Where would you tell somebody how to go about it? Do you go to a hospital? Where do you go? Do you go to crisis? Where do you go?
You can go to crisis. You can go to hospitals, but I find that they make the withdrawal a little more easy. Not much. You're still going to feel it. And then they slap a prescription in your hand and send you on your way. And you need more than that. If you need the medication-assisted treatment, you also need the counseling, the groups, people to relate to you, the support. I was thankful I went to my doctor and was sent and immediately put in to the methadone program, which it came with the groups and the counseling, and I needed that at the time to get away. And I don't know exactly where you would go for just groups and counseling other than the ones, the AAs or the NAs, but
the thing with it is, seek some help.
Yeah.
Don't let the addictions continue controlling you. And I tell you, addiction is one between your right ear and your left ear. That's where it's one. It's your mind. And it's not easy to get your mind lined up so it just says no. You know, I know they have the signs, just say no to it. Well, there's more to it than just saying no. It starts there. But then, again, get away from the people that do drugs. Get away from the people that are drunks. Move into a different circle. And that isn't easy, because sometimes it's your family.
Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
It really is. Sometimes it's your family, and it's like, wow, I got to hang within my family. But you have to pull away to get yourself clean. And first thing is, you can't do much. If you're tied up in drugs and alcohol or whatever it is that's controlling you, you get to the point where a lot of people lose their jobs, they lose their homes, they lose their families, and all of this. And it's very common, and it can happen to anybody. And I can tell you, my addiction is probably the easiest one to get hooked on, especially being in America, because you can just start out with fast foods and ice cream parlors. And then you just start overeating, and you don't think anything of it, and it's like you just go on and on and on. So anyway, I appreciate you sharing, Chelsea, your battles with addiction, and the fact that you can get clean, because you have.
I have.
And you're clean now, and you're waiting to get your kids back. As a matter of fact, we're looking to do another podcast about autistic kids, because you have one.
I have 3 out of 4.
Well, then we'll have all kinds of things to ask on our next one that you're on with some other folks here that have autistic children. So I hope you're finding these helpful and seeing that, look, the homeless is no different than you. They're no different than me. They come in with their addictions. I have my addictions. We can win them. We turn to Christ, give our life over to Christ, but then we have to get into a circle of friends that's going to encourage us to stop. And some going to need some medical attention. If you need it, go get it. Get yourself on your feet. Battle it. We want to see people off the streets that are battling it. We hope they get help. And if you see somebody that's battling it, come alongside them and offer them some help. Offer to get them somewhere. Whatever it takes, we want to help people in every way. And that's as important as anything. But I just want to say, it's not just this alone that puts people on the street. People on the street for all kinds of reasons. We just want to start looking at some of those reasons. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of our ministry. And make any comments on there. If you are an addict and you go, man, I did this, or whatever, we would love to hear from you on our site. But until the next podcast, you all come back now here.